Hey, welcome to Mortality with Meep. This is my last of the, update on mortality in 2020 by age group. This is at the CDC site. Link is in the video description. Going past all the text to my selection of the dashboard, weekly number of deaths by age. And I picked the two age groups under age 45. This is the entire United States. And again, we'll look at the top 10 states. Before we really get into this, I want to mention that you do not have a lot of deaths in these groups to begin with, okay? Actually, I'm going to show all the age groups and then just go back to these because you need to understand kind of order of magnitude. These age groupings are not all the same in terms of population. Okay, sorry about that. In terms of population and in terms of years. So 85 years and older, obviously that goes out to infinity, but most of it's going to be bunched up near age 85 just because, of course, people are dying off. We have the 75 to 84, that's still the silent generation. It's a smaller generation than the boomers, which straddle these other ones, 65 to 74 years, that's a 10-year period. But then we have 45 to 64, and that's a 20-year period, and 25 to 44, another 20-year period, and then under 25, which is 25 years. And you can see it really steps up in the number of deaths in each group. You can really see the impact of bad flu years. So remember, these gray lines are years 2015 to 2019, kind of at a low level there. And, just seeing this, yeah, deaths are a lot higher at 85 and older, the older ages. It really steps up. It definitely steps up between 25 to 44 to middle age, 45 to 64. So that has to do with the natural shape of mortality. But I want to focus on the under 45. So now it's updated because the pattern I see here is very concerning. Under 25 years, it's pretty flat. Actually, it might be down a little compared to prior years, though, again, don't trust the winter numbers. It looks like maybe there's a little bit of extra mortality in the summer, a little, but not much. You don't see the peaks that you see with the older age, middle age, and definitely the age 85 and up. No 3 waves. Don't see any waves there on the under 25 years. But if you look at 25 to 44, you don't really see any waves there either. I don't think most of these deaths aren't COVID. That's my opinion. I will be digging into the official stats, not in this video, but just notice there's kind of a slow increase in deaths. And it's been at an elevated level. Maybe it came down in the fall and into the winter, and maybe it didn't. I don't know. And maybe it is COVID. Maybe I'm wrong. Part of the problem is this is for the entire United States. Let's look at the top 10 states. Again, we recall there's very few people as a percentage of the population dying from these groups to begin with. So there's probably going to be a lot of noise. But yeah, take a look at California. We even saw some wave structure in California, but what's going on in California? Again, under 25, nothing going on. But we see this slow increase in number of deaths for 25 to 44. It hits a peak sometime. I believe that's in the late summer. Maybe it's coming down, but it has stayed at a pretty high rate. Again, I don't think that's COVID. Let's go to Texas, our next big state. So flat for under 25. Maybe there was a summer wave here, so that's kind of interesting. Maybe this is COVID. Maybe it's not. Who knows? But yeah, it looks like there was a peak in the summer and kind of came down. Okay, let's take a look at Florida. So Florida, again, under 25, nothing going on. And it looks no real peaks, but part of the problem here is there is a lot of noise. And once we're getting into smaller states, it's going to be a problem. Even with a 20-year period, you don't have a lot of deaths in that group to begin with. There will be random noise. Uh, this is clearly, I'm sorry, in the summer there is clearly heightened mortality, but it's kind of difficult to make a comparison. There is heightened mortality here, but there's also, as you can see in the variability of the gray lines, there is a lot of noise in that group. And especially Florida, and I'm not surprised, because for younger age groups, the top killers in the US are cancer and heart disease, but they mainly kill the oldest people. When you get to younger ages, definitely under age 45, most of the causes of death are car accidents, homicides. Actually, that's not really the top. Suicides, drug overdoses. It's generally non-natural causes of death or external causes. You do get cancer deaths, but far more people are dying of these other things, accidental causes or on purpose causes to cause death. So, it's kind of depressing to think about. And this is why I'm also concerned about the whole US uh, pattern I see, because I believe it is the same top, homicides, suicides, drug overdoses, and maybe even accidental causes of death. There has been, and in my own town, we had a spate of people not racing, but basically taking their performance sports cars out on our scenic roads and having a good time wrapping their trees. Wrapping their cars around trees. Um, there have been some really reckless behavior in 2020. Let's go into New York. This should be interesting. New York State first. Now, this is interesting. This has more of evidence that there was a COVID wave for the younger adults, 25 to 44, so a little bit of spread. And then it's kind of noisy. And this is for the entire state. And we do see a winter wave coming here for the 25 to 44. So that's really interesting. Let's look at New York City. Boom. Yeah. And again, notice in all of these states, under age 25 is pretty, mortality wise, it's like no impact at all. Once you start to get into adulthood, yeah, and this is definitely COVID. When you see a sharp spike like that, that's pandemic. But it's maybe a little bit elevated after that, and it does look like there's a winter wave going on in New York City. So, interesting to think about. After New York is Pennsylvania. Go to Pennsylvania. Here we go. Now we're starting to get into it's too noisy to see a thing. So let's look at Illinois. Maybe that might not be so noisy. Yeah, now it's just it's hard to say anything. There is, and maybe again this was centered around Chicago, perhaps. But it does look like, yeah, they had a COVID hit probably, and then it's hard to tell what's going on with this data. It's very noisy at this point. Ohio. Okay, Ohio. So we definitely have some for Ohio, a little bit of noise, but definitely a winter wave. So that's interesting to see. And remember, Ohio didn't really have, and let me just do all the age groups for Ohio so you can see that. Come on. Okay, so I remembered there was like a little bit of a wave for the older ages earlier for Ohio, but what Ohio really has is this winter wave. Look at that 85, 75. Now once you have all the age groups, yeah, it looks like there is a winter wave for the 25 to 44 year olds in Ohio too. But it doesn't look like they have a lot of excess mortality in prior times. So that was Ohio, Georgia, and I'm just going to keep all of them here for a moment. Yeah, okay, let's go back to just our younger groups so we can see this better. Come on, Georgia. Okay, a lot of noise in under 25. maybe the mortality is lower. And no, I think this is kind of within the realm of the natural volatility. But we are seeing some extra mortality in the summer here for the 25 to 44-year-olds. Yeah, North Carolina, do better, North Carolina. There's definitely excess mortality, but look at it's kind of a even level throughout. Let's see, like spring through summer. In North Carolina. That's hard to tell. Now, North Carolina actually is geographically pretty big too. It's possible there were waves that hit different groups, but again, they lack data, at least through the CDC. It's hard to tell their total mortality effect. And then we'll do Michigan. And I think we are going to see something here. Yeah, there is kind of a spring spike, but again, most of this is too noisy to, it looks like there's extra mortality here, probably if we smooth it all out, but it's very volatile. Let me just go to all the ages again so we can see what this looks like. You know, from a magnitude perspective, in all of these states where I'm seeing this heightened mortality for age 25 to 44, let's do the whole United States. It is elevated. Now that I've compressed it all to be, and they're all on the same scale, you can really see there's kind of a level heightened mortality for the 25 to 44 year group. And again, I think it's other causes of death, not COVID. The older adult ages, it's so clearly wave structures that are obviously coming from epidemic hits that, you know, there's not so much, there hasn't been a lot of focus on what's been going on with younger adults. There's been a lot more focus, and it's understandable. Most of the deaths are coming from the oldest age groups. And from a percentage standpoint, you know, this is, that's a huge amount of numbers, and you might have a huge percentage increase for younger adults, but when it comes out to the actual, actual count, you know, it's very small compared to the experience you're getting from the older. So that's why there's been a lot of focus on the older. For the younger age group, it's probably not COVID that really contributed the most directly to the excess mortality. So I'll be digging into that a little bit more using the CDC data. And I know this is going to be studied, you know, for years. There's so many mortality effects going on, and there may be lingering mortality effects. We don't know yet what will happen with that. So anyway, see y'all.